This remedy is one of the Hahnemann's greatest contribution as a chemist. He used his chemistry knowledge and prepared a special compound. This is for the people who cannot tolerate injustice. They cannot see something wrong. They fight for the cause. This is not Kalika. This is not Naksomika. This is for the people who cannot see others suffering. They are highly sympathy towards others' sufferings. This is not Phosphorus. This is not Natramure. They have more of right-sided complaints. They have got right-sided headache, right-sided eye problem, right-sided facial neuralgia. This is not sanguinaria. This is not bryonia. This is not lycopodium. This is for the people who never been well since the time of burns. All the complaint starts after the burns. This is not cantharis. This is not urticarians. This is for the people who have paralysis. Paralysis especially of maybe of upper motor neuron lesion, maybe of lower motor neuron lesion. Paralysis of the single parts followed by contraction. This is for the people who are more of constipated. The person can pass only by standing. The child passes stool only by standing. They cannot pass stool by sitting. This is for the people who have a complaints from the clear fine weather. But when the damp weather they feel better. This is for the people who have a complaints of warts, especially at the tip of the nose, warts at the fingertips, warts at the eyebrows, warts at the eyelids. This is not nitric acid. This is not natramure. Warts which bleeds. This is Hahnemann's greatest remedy from the potassium group. It is called as Causticum. Causticum. It is called as Hahnemann's Tinctura acris sin kali. It is a drug belongs to the group of potassium group, and this compound of Causticum Hahnemann himself is prepared because he had a vast knowledge about chemistry. It is called as potassium hydrate. It has been obtained by distilling a mixture of slaked lime and a solution of potassium bisulfate. And he prepared, the details of his preparations are available in the source books of Hahnemann. And from that he prepared by mixing with the spirit. The causticum is derived from the Latin word causticus. In the Greek there is called caustikos, that means a burn. Caustic means burn, means corrode. So this chemical substance, potassium hydrate, which will burn the skin, it will burn the mucous membrane. Because of that, it receives the name causticum. Potassium hydroxide is an inorganic compound with the formula KOH, and it is commonly called as caustic potash. Potassium hydroxide, it smells like a caustic potash, which forms the basis for preparing homeopathic remedy causticum, because it has the smell of caustic potash. It is made from slaked lime and potassium bisulfate, and in the marble state it is insoluble in water. When it is heated, there it escapes of the marble, causing the acid to be formed and escaped as a gas. So you can see a chemical formula: CaOH2 plus KHSO4 plus H2O, that's called KOH plus CaSO4 plus 2H2O. It's mainly used in liquid soaps, potassium soaps, Causticum is an excellent remedy for the various neurological complaints. It has got action on entire nervous system. It has got action on the brain. It has got action on the nerves. It has got action on the muscles. It has got action on the respiratory systems. It has got action on the skin, mucous membrane. Special action on the face. It has got action on the mainly on the right side of the body. It has got action on the bladder. So from head to toe, it has got action. It has got psoric feature, it has got psychotic feature, it also has got a syphilitic feature. Pathophysiological action. On inhaling potassium hydroxide, it can irritate the lungs. The person may get cough, person may get bronchitis. Higher exposure may lead to fluid accumulation in the lungs, may lead to pulmonary edema, and can be lead to a medical emergency. Exposure to potassium hydroxide can cause headache, can cause dizziness, can produce nausea and vomiting. While proving it has got various neurological features, it will produce paralysis, maybe of single parts, maybe paralysis of group of muscles. On action on the bladder, it produced weakness of the bladder muscles. Causticum, Hahnemannian tinctura acris sin kali, or caustic potash. This is a drug mainly adapted to the person who have dark hair, person who have got rigid fiber, person who is weak with excessive yellow sallow complexion, person who is subjected to respiratory and neurological as well as urinary tract diseases, children with dark hair and dark eyes, children who are very delicate, who are very sensitive, the person who get affected by grief, person who get affected by fright, person who is prone to have various skin problems like warts or intertrigo, adapted to the children who have late learning to walk like Baraita Cab, Calcarea Foss, adapted to the people who get affected in the clear fine weather. When the weather is damp, they feel better. It's also adapted to the people who have various neurological deficits, maybe a single muscle or multiple muscles, they have various weakness of the muscles. For such individuals, Causticum is adapted. It is also adapted to the people who cannot tolerate injustice, the people who fight for the justice, the people who are highly sympathy for the sufferers of others. So such individuals are mainly of Causticum group. We will see some of the keynote indication of Causticum. The first and most important indication is person always feels kind of rawness or kind of soreness in the throat. He feels as though the throat skin is gone out. Always feel some kind of irritation in the throat, a rawness and a soreness in the throat, maybe in the respiratory tract, maybe in the scalp, rawness and soreness in the rectum, maybe in the anus, maybe in the urethra, maybe in the vagina, maybe in the uterus. So everywhere the person feels as though it's raw, as though it has been sore. We have sore bruised feeling drug arnica. We have sprained feeling drug rustox. Similarly here the person feels raw and sore feeling in the every body parts. That's the first indication of Causticum. You need to compare APA self, you need to compare belladonna. They have got different modalities to differentiate. The second indication comes, Causticum means people who are highly sympathy towards the suffering of others. They cannot see others' pain. We have close coming remedies, phosphorus. Phosphorus may be a sympathy for one person or two person, but this Causticum is, he'll fight for the justice. He'll fight for the people who are suffering. He'll represent on behalf of them. So such individuals who have highly sympathy towards the others' sufferings. We have to compare phosphorus, we have to compare natrium mure, we have to compare magnesium mure. All this drug has got some sort of sympathy. But Causticum is a fighter for the sympathy. He'll fight for others' sufferings. Such kind of sympathy you see in Causticum. The third keynote indication is Causticum is excellent remedy for various neurological diseases, a remedy for paralysis. Paralysis with contraction of single parts, maybe paralysis of vocal cord, maybe paralysis of a tongue, or maybe paralysis of eyelids, maybe paralysis of facial palsy, maybe paralysis of extremities, maybe a paralysis of bladder. But generally, a Causticum has got a right-sided paralysis. Maybe exposure to cold wind as you get in Bell's palsy, maybe a paralysis after typhoid, maybe a paralysis after diphtheria, which gradually appearing. There may be a drooping of upper eyelids, that's called ptosis, cannot keep them open. He needs to lift his eyelids with the help of fingers. We have colophyllum, gelsemium, graphitis. Both the eyelids drooping, you have got a remedy sepia. Here paralysis may be because of hemorrhagic reason, or it may be due to deficiency, or maybe due to a inflammatory, maybe due to space occupying lesion, whatever may be the reason. The causticum is an excellent remedy for upper motor neuron lesion or lower motor neuron lesion, or whatever the lesion, a paralysis, especially a right-sided affections. You need to compare other remedies for paralysis like gelsemium. You need to compare arnica. We need to compare latirus. We need to compare bothropes. There are many drugs based on the pathology. The indication varies, but causticum has got paralysis with contraction. Causticum is also indicated remedy for constipation. We have got many drugs for constipations. It may be of Noxomica, it may be of opium, it may be of Chilidonium, it may be Silesia, it may be of magnesium mure, it may be of anacardium, it may be of alumina. Each drug has got its own points to differentiate. But causticum means constipation where the person can pass stool only by standing. He cannot sit and pass stool like any other individuals. The person feels better by standing and passing stool. So you can imagine a so difficult situation for a person. Especially in children, child will never go and sit in a toilet and pass motion. It will stand and pass. That is a peculiar indication of causticum. There is a frequent ineffectual desire like our Noxomica, like our anacardium, sulfur. But stool passes better when child is standing, when the person is standing. The person passes bowels by standing. That is a peculiar concomitant for the constipation of causticum. Another indication, there is a urine involuntary while coughing, while sneezing, because there is a weakness of bladder muscles. Involuntary urination while coughing, sneezing, or while blowing the nose. We have remedies like pulsatilla, squilla, epis, natrum mure, natrum sulph, phosphorus, calicop. There are many drugs. But here in causticum is mainly of neurological origin because of a weak bladder. There is a paralysis of bladder. Another keynote indication, there is a cough with rawness and soreness in the chest. He knows that he has got severe secretion inside the chest, but he is unable to expectorate. There is full of rattling in the chest, full of secretion in the chest, but he is unable to bring out. Sputum must be swallowed, like arnica and calicop. And cough is also relieved by drinking cold water. Cough more on expiration, like aconite. So you can see a peculiar symptoms. Cough, severe secretion in the chest congestion, he is unable to bring out the sputum. The sputum has to be swallowed and only relieved by drinking cold water. So there is a peculiar concomitant of cough, where the cough is relieved by drinking cold water. It's icy cold water ameliorates. Causticum is also an excellent remedy for hoarseness of voice, with rawness and soreness in the throat, with complete aphonia, especially in the morning time. We have got remedy, hoarseness of voice, aphonia. In the evening time, we have got remedy like carbovage, phosphorus. They are the people who get complaints, aggravation in the evening. But here in causticum, the person, as soon as he gets up, as soon as he wakes up, he will have a hoarse voice, with complete loss of voice. We have remedies like alumina, argentum metallicum, bromium. We have got apersulf. But the differentiating point is, as soon as he wakes up, he will have a hoarseness of voice. As the day advances, the hoarseness is better. For the hoarseness of voice, we have 3 remedies: carbovage, phosphorus, and causticum. You can say triad. But causticum is in the morning time, carbovage and phosphorus in the evening time. So phosphorus and causticum are inimical to each other. One more unique indication of causticum is person has never been well since the time of last burn. He was perfectly alright, and all the complaints started after he had a burn. We know causticum, a caustic potash, which corrodes the skin, which burns the skin. So, bad effect of burn. Patient says that they have never been well since that time of last burn. We need to compare other drugs, urticurins. We need to compare cantharis. We need to compare Apis mellifica. Various drugs are there. Here the old burn scars, it may reopen like silesia. For the burns, scar formation, we have drugs like fluoric acid. We have got drugs like calcareous fluor. We have got drugs like silesia. We have drugs like thiocyanum. There are many drugs. But you can correlate all the symptomatology since the time of burn. Another indication of causticum for the menstrual problem. Menses is delayed, menses is most of the time late, it is too feeble, and menstrual flow only during the daytime. It disappears at night. Menstrual flow only during the daytime. We have remedies like cactus, coffea, cyclamen, hamamelis. Menstrual flow ceases once the person lies down. So menses during the daytime, but they have got leukorrhea at night. So menses in the daytime and leukorrhea at night. This is the indication of causticum in female complaints. Causticum is also indicated for the people who have melancholic mood, people who are very sad, people who are hopeless, maybe after a prolonged grief, maybe after a prolonged sorrow. With weeping, the least things makes the child cry. The person who is melancholic mood after a grief, you need to compare natrum mur, you need to compare natrum carb, you need to compare ignatia, you need to compare pulsatilla. People who are in a melancholic mood, people who are very sad, people who are after the effect of grief, people who are weeping, you need to differentiate based on the other constitutional feature, you can differentiate. It's also indicated for various rheumatic complaints, rheumatic affections with contraction of the flexor group of muscles. So you have got many drugs for rheumatic affections like Rustox, Ruta. But here rheumatic complaints with contraction of the flexor group of muscles. There's marked stiffness of the joints. There's a shortening of the muscles. A shortening of the tendon Achilles muscles. We have got remedies like ammonium muriaticum, Simex, guaiacum, natrum. So various joint complaints with contraction of the tendons, with marked stiffness of the joint, where the complaints are aggravation in the clear fine weather and complaints are better in the damp weather. That is the indication of causticum. It's also indicated for the warts, especially warts at the tip of the nose, warts at the fingertips, warts over the eyebrows, everywhere in the projected parts, maybe on the eyebrows, maybe on the tip of the nose, maybe on the tip of the fingers. The warts are flat or horny warts. They are the large warts, often pedunculated. The warts which bleeds easily, like our nitric acid, like our phosphorus. Warts on the eyelids, warts on the face, warts at the nose. These are the indication of causticum in warts. Causticum individuals are generally affected by clear, fine weather. When the weather is very clear and nice weather, they have a problem. They may get respiratory problem. At the same time, when the weather is very damp and wet, they feel better. They are just opposite of natrum self. They get aggravation in the damp weather. Like Blata, aggravation in the damp weather. We have Dulcamera, we have Rustox, we have got antimonium tart, we have got Tuja. All these remedies are aggravation in the damp weather. But this person feels better in the damp weather. This is something like a contradictory symptom. It is like an ignatia. Ignatia also has got similar symptom. Another indication, this is the topmost remedy for Bell's palsy. Especially a right-sided Bell's palsy or right-sided facial paralysis. Maybe after exposure to cold. Facial palsy, we have got many drugs. sanguinaria, gelsemium, but this is mainly for right-sided Bell's palsy. It's also a remedy for the people who get epilepsy at the time of puberty or epilepsy at the time of dentitions like chamomilla, like belladonna. Epilepsy also from suppressed eruptions like silicea, like beretta, like sulfur. It's also a remedy for the fistula formation. Fistula in the anus like Berberis vulgaris, calcarea, pus, fluoric acid, silicea. Fistula at the dental region also. Dental fistula. Fistula with rawness and soreness of the anal area. With severe pain. With excessive scar formation. These are all the few indication of causticum. Causticum is also indicated for nocturnal enuresis, especially in children during the first sleep. We cannot treat a patient of nocturnal enuresis based on the one symptoms. You need to match at the level of mentals, you need to match at the level of physical generals, then only we can cure the nocturnal enuresis completely. We have many remedies like silicea, like ignatia, like natrum mure, like magnesium mure, equisetum. Equisetum, there is no other etiology, only habit. Bedwetting is a habit for children, so for such symptomatology you need to think of equisetum. Here in causticum, maybe of emotional origin, maybe after a grief, maybe of bladder pathology, we need to find out and give the indicated remedy. But causticum is also a remedy for nocturnal enuresis in the children during the first half of the sleep. Causticum is also a remedy for sciatica. As we all know, causticum is generally a right-sided remedy, but sciatica is left-sided. Otherwise, every complaint is a right-sided origin, right-sided location, but sciatica is just opposite, left-sided sciatica. You need to compare colocynth, you need to compare ammonium mure, you need to compare lachesis, you need to compare thuja. Left-sided sciatica with numbness, which is again aggravation in the cold weather and feels better in the warmth of the bed. We'll see some of the ailments for causticum. Ailment from long-lasting grief, ailment from long-lasting sorrow, like our phosphoric acid, ailment from loss of sleep, ailment from night watching, like cocculus, ignatia, ailment from sudden emotions, like our gelsemium, ailment from fear, fright, like our aconite, phosphorus, ailment from joy, like our coffea, gelsemium, ailments from anger or vexations, like our lycopodium, bryonia, ailment from suppressed eruptions, like our sulfur, ailment from burns, like our urticarians, ailment from cold wind, ailment from draught of cold wind, ailment from typhoid, ailment from diphtheria. These are the few of the etiological factor of causticum. We'll see about the constitutional features of causticum. We'll see what is the basic nature of a causticum person. There are two types of causticum has been described in most of the literatures. One is extroverted causticum, other one is introverted causticum. We'll speak about extroverted causticum. Just like Kali group, just like Kali Cub, they are the fighters. They are bold fighters. They are basically having that idea of idealism. They cannot tolerate injustice. They are more of sympathy towards others' suffering. There are mainly two reasons. Because they feel sympathy for others' suffering and they feel a deep sense of injustice happened to that man or injustice happened to that person. They are the one who always fight for others. It is not that injustice happened to him, it's also injustice happened for others. We have sympathy for others, many drugs. We have a sympathy for others like phosphorus. He will have a sympathy for others. They are suffering. But Phosphorus may not fight for the justice. Phosphorus may help the sufferings. We have natromure, sympathy. We have magnesium group. They doesn't want fight and quarrel. They try maximum help. But Causticum is much more beyond that sympathy. They have basic quality of idealistic nature. There is an analytical mind, a practically idealistic man, someone who actually does something concrete to try to realize his vision, more just and caring for the society. He is not bothered about himself, he is more of caring towards the society. He wants to correct everyone. He doesn't like politicians. They are more of interested in social issues. They fight for the cause. They are the people who is being called as a whistleblowers. They are selflessly working to help for the poor who are affected. If at all you can imagine a Causticum person who sees something wrong in his place, he will write a letter to the higher authorities. He will call and speaks to the higher authorities. He will give you complaints in medias. Such bold nature you can see in Causticum. They often write letters if they see injustice. They may speak in news channels. They may come to the radio and tell that this is the problem happening in my place. They feel so upset that this is happening in his areas or it is happening in the society. He cannot see injustice in the society. He doesn't like racial discriminations. He will fight for the cause. That is Causticum. You can imagine if at all there is a sexual victim, he'll fight for her. Even though he did not be a victim, but he will fight for the others. Very often they'll have an investigative nature. He is an intelligent man. He has got an analytical mind. He is more of moral towards the people. He will expose the injustice. If at all there is a corrupt practice in the society, he will start writing. That is the typical of extroverted Causticum personality. Very rare to see this kind of person. You might have seen who's fighting. You might have seen someone maybe in the journalism. They'll fight, they'll investigate something wrong happened in the society and they'll publish it. So such individuals, such bold, such daring individuals, not only bothered about himself, he's bothered for the society, he's bothered for the people. Such personalities are usually Causticum. Causticum is more towards the truth. He'll fight for the truth. Because of this reason, he'll be most of the time alone. Because of his behavior, fighting for everything, for the right, wrong, he'll fight. So very often people may not come close to him because they know that he'll fight if they do something wrong. So most of the time they'll become loner. They are highly sensitive. His failure to realize his dreams, to the stressors, a kind of indignation happens. If something what he sees injustice happening, when whatever he is fighting, it's not coming up to his expectation, he'll get upset. He become highly sensitive that he cannot help these people. He cannot correct that. So he'll become totally a kind of indignation. He's having a suppressed anger because he's unable to do the need what he thoughts. It is leading to a kind of despair within him. We should not forget that he is not only fighting, but as a family man, he has got a warm and romantic heart. You should not think that he is only fighting. It is not the fighting of Naxomika. He will fight for the cause because of basically an idealistic nature. At the same time, same idealistic man, he has got a warm and romantic heart. He'll carry for his family. He loves his family. He is usually very passionate about his loved ones. So whenever he loses his loved ones, maybe losing parents, maybe losing siblings, or maybe losing children, leading to a deep grief. that will affect him to the core. Once the grief has come in his life, the same fighting attitude, he'll become more of depressed. He'll be in more of agonizing grief, the more of painful grief. The sensitive heart will start weeping. He'll become depressed. He'll become very gloomy. There are numerous griefs can happen in this Causticum personality because he is highly sensitive. He'll have grief for others also. He'll have a grief for the society also. This grief will go more of internalized, like natromure. They may get warts. They may get kind of weakness because of this long-lasting agonizing grief. Here the grief is not only about his loved ones, this grief is for the society, whatever thing happening. That is why you can differentiate natromure grief, ignatia grief, lachesis grief, pulsatile grief. At the same time, there is a kind of obsession, there is a kind of anxiety, there is a kind of introversion also you see in Causticum personality. Whenever his idealistic nature is not approved, he'll go a state of introversion. When his idealistic, when his fighting attitude in his youth age, he has done so much for the society, he couldn't see injustice. And slowly when he is having an advanced age, he is unable to do the same spirit like how he used to do before. And it will go a kind of introversion Causticum. They'll get more of prone to anxiety, more of fear. More than that, he'll be more of obsessed. The obsession is more of fastidious obsession. It is like our Naxomica, more of irritable fastidiousness. We have arsenical, more of anxiety fastidiousness. Here also the kind of anxiety leading to a obsession and leading to a fastidiousness. They are very tidy and neat in their things. They doesn't want others to touch and others to spoil the things. Such behavior you can also see in Causticum. The idealistic Causticum, over a period of time, will become an introverted personality. After a prolonged stress, he'll develop a kind of anxiety. He'll develop a kind of obsession. Full of negative thoughts comes in his life. Full of negative thought comes to his mind. Obsessed with cleanliness. He'll be repeatedly checking the doors, whether the doors are closed or not. Repeatedly hand washing like our syphilinum. There's a full of anxiety as if something bad is going to happen. The idealism of his youth is fading away. He loses his self-confidence and becomes more of anxious, more of fearful. He feels that he is going to die. A fear of noise. Something bad is going to happen. There's a fear of bad news that leading to a trembling, leading to a kind of agitation, leading to a kind of panic episode in this Causticum personality. They always check whether the loved ones have come back or not. The children have come back or not. Such kind of anxiety develops. Over a period of this anxiety persists and will go to a state of weakness of memory. He feels that something he lost in his life, a forgotten feeling with a fear of death. This is how the Causticum is an evolution. The same idealistic person, the person who is sympathy, the person who is a fighter will go to a state of introverted, will go to a state of anxiety, it will go to a state of obsession with the fear, with the panic episodes and weakness of memory. Such is the evolution of Causticum. Here we come to the end of Causticum. We'll see the summary. Causticum is one of the Hahnemann's contribution as a chemist. It is called as Hahnemann's Tinctura Acris in Kali. It has got action on the brain, nervous system, muscles, respiratory system, mucous membranes, face, skin, limbs, bladder, and especially on the right side of the body. You can see pathophysiologically it will produce paralysis of the face, eyes, bladder, vocal cord, paralysis of the eyes, ptosis. paralysis of the facial nerve called Bell's palsy, paralysis of the vocal cord leading to hoarseness of voice, leading to complete aphonia, especially in the morning time, paralysis of the bladder leading to enuresis or incontinence. It's a remedy for the burns and bad effect of burns. It's a remedy for fistula affection, maybe anal fistula or dental fistula. As a result of paralysis of the intestine leading to a constipation, person passes stool better by standing. Paralysis leading to contractions, which leading to stiffness of the joints, feels that the limbs are shortened. A rheumatism. On the skin, it has a tendency for warts, especially at the tip of the nose, face, fingers, eyebrows, which are bleeding in nature. As a person who is highly sensitive, he cannot tolerate injustice. He is highly sympathy towards others. He is highly idealistic person. Over a period of time, it will become an anxiety, leading to obsession, leading to fear. There is always a rawness and soreness sensation. Everywhere right-sided, but sciatica is left-sided. Person who is prone to have epilepsy during the time of puberty, or epilepsy during the time of dentition, or epilepsy due to suppressed eruptions. Generally, they get complaints from grief, sudden emotions, ailment from fear, fright, joy, anger, sorrow, vexation. Coming to the generals, menstrual flow only during the daytime and leukorrhea at night. They are the individuals who get complaints of the clear, fine weather and they are better in the damp weather. Thermally chilly. So this is the summary of Causticum.